It's a reduction. It's the number one thing for knee pain as far as improving it. COPD dramatically improved. There's another study out in the last 2 years showing 13 types of cancers that are significantly reduced. I would have never known that leukemia and lymphoma are reduced. Who would have guessed like esophageal cancer reduced by regular physical activity? Diabetes, combined with a couple other things, physical activity, you can reduce diabetes type 2 by 58%. Osteoporosis, you can reduce that by 47%. Anxiety and depression are both around 50% reductions too. And that's without the Zoloft. You add the Zoloft and then you're talking numbers of 70, 75%. So I believe with all my heart that this is the magic bullet and a miracle drug. And unfortunately, you know, as the CDC just shared, they say nationally 23% of us are getting enough exercise. In this room, that number's a lot different, but nationally, and honestly, we're in a biased population. As cardiologists, we're seeing people that are short of breath and chest pain, but I'm not sure. 23 sounds very high. Let me ask you guys, does 23 seem right, low, high? How many people feel that their numbers are higher than that, that they're seeing a higher percentage of people get 150 minutes? Okay, that makes me feel better. How many feel that number's about right? And how many people see lower than that? Okay. All right, that's helpful for me. So now I'll share our story. It's me and Grandpa sitting on the rocking chair. So when I said that moment in November of 2004 was magical, I don't usually use the word magic, but it truly was something like I've never witnessed. This patient, let's call her patient 0, said, you know what, yeah, when are you going to do that? It was Columbus in November. It's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have said that yet. The weather's probably not going to be that great. Let me take your email. And I took her email. She was excited about it. She asked what day it might be. So that engagement was cool. And my nurse, Molly, we walked out. She said, you know, my husband works at a meat market on Saturday mornings. If you want, I'll come check blood pressures. If you want that, that'd be a fun thing to do. And we still do that to this day. And then the weird stuff happened. Like, started getting calls from that. The word just spread around the hospital quickly. I was at Marty mentioned Ohio Health. I was at Riverside, now at a different hospital. Mount Carmel has been really supportive. But I got a call the next day from a guy who said, hey, I own a hot air balloon. Do you mind letting me know? I'll fly it over the walk. That would be the coolest thing ever. So I called Metro Parks and they said, no, you're not allowed to do that. But we had that cool factor. So I was like, all right. And then we just started getting calls. We'd like you to meet with so-and-so. It was a fall and winter of meetings and collecting emails from patients. Collected about 800 to 1,000 emails. And then, just not to leave this room, it's been a while, but Wendy's Hamburgers, they're based in Columbus, Ohio. They came to me and they said, we would like it to be called Wendy's Walk with a Duck. So then it was a bunch of conversations where my wife eventually just said, would you just shut up about this already? But you're faced with, it's a hamburger joint, which also has some healthy options, versus they're going to put this concept on 1.1 million tray liners a week. And all of a sudden it was going to be in Raleigh, Louisville, Nashville, all these places. So I decided, yep, let's do that. That's fun. This needs to happen. We need to get people moving. Well, for those who may remember, maybe not, in Sausalito that year, I believe it was Sausalito, a woman claimed she found a finger in her chili. So that pulled all of Wendy's resources out of Columbus to California to deal with this. And during that point, I may have wised up or it may have fallen apart, but for whatever reason, we did not go with that. My cardiology practice, which I'm still with to this day, although we switched hospitals, saw dollar signs, got really excited. I I didn't see dollar signs. I don't know why they did, but they offered to get me an executive director, which was all I needed to hear. So I could see patients. I'm still practicing full time, and she could work on connecting us with Wendy's. Well, as I said, that didn't happen. But what she did do was talk to 11 parks around the Outer Belt in Columbus, and they said, we want to do Walk with a Doc. Sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. So she said, you don't worry about anything. I'm going to handle this. The meetings, I know you're busy, and things were really picking up. Practice was just like all of yours, very busy. All I had to do was secure the docs. So I started calling docs, and no one had heard of it, or, well, no one had heard of it, but kids have soccer games, everything's going on. No one really wants to do anything on a Saturday morning. So, short story is, I failed at that. At this point, I'm like a year and a half into the practice. My in-laws are looking at me like, I'm sure they're having conversations with my wife about what's he doing with this walking stuff. It was in the paper and my practice. So in short, I stopped it because I saw all this time invested in cardiology was going to be wasted, and I was really nervous my practice was getting upset. So we canceled it, and that during that year of 06, we canceled around Christmas of 05. I really missed it, and kept being approached by people saying, when are we going to do this? And during that year, I learned this needed to be kind of in the fabric, I felt, of medicine. It was too important that breaking down the barriers between the docs and the community. Because really, on average, the attendees at these walks are about 10% patients, and the rest word of mouth. So I took a big gulp at the end of 06 and said, my wife was like, why don't you try it again? Just stay at High Bank, stay at that park, don't worry about the 11 other sites. And then we started to grow organically. I think we did it for like a year, and people were angry. It was like we pulled the carpet out from underneath, or maybe more appropriately, the chair out from underneath them. They were angry that they had this community that was pulled away. So it was almost worse than starting over. Metro Parks were furious. They had just put out we were on page 3 of their thing that went out in a couple 100,000 Columbus dispatches, and then I pulled it. So they were furious and did not support us when we came back. 9 months in, a guy says, hey, I'd like to try this, I'd like to do it. So he started one around town, and then we were asked by Cooking Light I was asked to recommend certain clothes to wear when walking or something like that. I don't know how that happened. And we had 50 requests come in from around the country. One of those was from General Motors, who said they wanted this program for their employees. They reached out to Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who then we started a year's worth of negotiations that led to enough funding in the middle of 09 where we could now get another executive director. We had to let that first one go because there was no program at the end of 05. So now we have this incredible woman as an executive director in the middle of 09. We have Anthem, who is making toolkits who can make this replicable. So by the time all that happened, we lost most of those Cooking Light contacts, but I don't know if you guys know Mike Roizen. He works with Dr. Oz, and he writes You, the Owner's Manual. He's the chief of wellness at the Cleveland Clinic. So he sent down a couple women to scout it out. Clinics started doing 1, 2, 4, 8, and ended up having 14 walks. So then, with the clinic involved, going up to Cleveland, and then a few other national, we started to grow more and more. It's kind of like a fire that you keep adding more wood to. We grew organically, and then in 2013, we were fortunate to be in the AARP Bulletin, which was a 200-word article, but it led to 1,000 requests. It led to, and we've been kind of holding on to this Anthem money because at this point we're getting 1 request a month, every 2 months to start a walk, but they're still giving us a decent amount of money. And anytime anyone asks for a walk, we're sending them like 100 shirts, 100 pedometers. We're totally equipping them. Even if they sneezed and it sounded like Walk with a Doc, they got everything. So then we had to shift gears when we had those 1,000 requests, 700 were from walkers. Hey, I live in Orange, New Jersey, where's our walk? I live in Boston, what's the goal? You know, how in the world can you guys not have a walk in Boston, yet you've got one in, you know, BFE, Ohio? Well, we have to be reactive. Because we tried, when we started accumulating, we had the Cleveland Clinic, I called Mayo. I was like, hey, have I got a program for you? And we learned that that didn't work. All the way down to now, you know, we're missing 4 states. So I called, in Rhode Island, I called Brown, I called Providence, I called everyone and said, hey, I've got this program, I'll give it to you for free. There's no catch, we want to grow this. And people, you know, it's business, they don't get back to you if they're not ready. But when we've learned to be very reactive, if that makes sense. So we're unable to accommodate those requests of the walkers that want to get it started in Boston, because you have to call 100 docs, you know, at that point before they would get started. We also had 300 docs contact us, and our capture rate is around 23% now. It was probably less. So of the people that contact us, we got about 5 a day right now. We're able to capture 1.5 of them to get started. That was 13, and we were fortunate in 2015 to be on CNN for about a week, and that blew the doors off. We had, out of that, we had 683 docs contact us to get started. And again, things get in the way, and that's why we don't have thousands of walks, but we are growing at about 40–45%, and then there's more stuff to come. I'm glad you're all sitting down, because that was a very long story. And there's more, but so this is Dr. Jennifer Hone in the shirt. She is an endocrinologist in Santa Barbara, and the reason I bring her up is back to this community and physician burnout and prevention. She had a whole bunch of walkers come to her house for Thanksgiving. You form almost, they become family. Certainly I've been doing it for 13 years. It felt like family for a long time, but you develop these really great relationships. Someone asked last night, do you have people come up and say, hey, I've got this on my foot, or will you look at this rash? That is very rare. And I am the first one to say, hey, I don't do rashes. But there's certain things that also, you know, if I get asked a nephrology question that I'm not comfortable with, I may want to look it up. It's a way to connect with them throughout the week. And this does a lot for your Press Ganey scores. That's not why we did it, but patient satisfaction goes through the roof. Another thing that happens, and not the reason to do it, but our docs win awards every week. We're hearing about this doc in Wyoming or this doc in Texas. It's just constant. And the neat thing is, we're all busy. It's an hour, maybe an hour a month, maybe an hour a week, if that's what you want, or maybe it's an hour a year. And we've got one of the things I'm most excited about, if not most excited about it, is our Walk with a Future Doc and residency program. So if a residency wants to split it up, so each person's taking, you know, a month or a week, it's very little involvement. You get back 10 times what you put into it. And she had all these people again to her house for Thanksgiving in 2017. It has not been a bed of roses. As I mentioned, the doctor problem was horrible. It was enough to get me to stop the program. I just was worried. We also we worked a lot with the ACC. They were fantastic to us. It was when Fred Bove was president, and Jack Lewin was there, and Janet Wright, and Janet, who we now work with Million Hearts, came up to me and was very candid, and she said, I'm just not sure docs will do this. And at that time, I really didn't know either, but I had a hunch. I'm not that special a person, and I knew there are 855,000 docs, I think, in the U.S. There are going to be a lot of people that are better than me and a lot of people that want to do this. There's 9.1 docs around the world, and then we'll get into there's a lot of allied health, a lot more allied health. So as we've been able to cast a bigger net with some of the national attention, that problem has gotten infinitely better. Again, not good at being proactive, at calling out a doc to do it, but if I ask a friend, they'll do it. But when you cast the net over the, over the U.S. and hopefully over other parts, you're shaking a lot of fruit off the trees. Liability insurance. My wife's an attorney and a good attorney and a nervous attorney. So she told me that I would not be walking in the park back in 2005 until I had insurance. I said, come on, honey, it's walking in the park. It's a park. We're walking. She didn't let me do it. So got insurance. It was $500. Everything was out of pocket. And when you start talking about a logo on a website, this all starts adding up, and you wonder when you're going to hit a problem. So the woman gives us insurance for $500. And I'm thrilled about this. And I'm walking with her at the first walk. I can't remember her name. Jane, I'm so thrilled you were able to get this. My wife wasn't going to let me do it. And now we get to, David, we're happy to do this really nice program. We're honored to be a part of it. I'm just curious, what are you guys doing for next week? I thought the $500 was for the year. So my wife knows now, but we went without insurance for about 3 years. So I know we've had one claim. It got thrown out right away. I was a professional claim artist. It felt like it was a woman who, it was in UCLA, I want to say Woodland Hills or Woodland Lakes, but it was their first walk. Dr. Michelle Emmy is still walking with us now, thank goodness, 5 or 6 years later. But they had a path that overlooked the Pacific, but a lot of tree roots, and this woman was using an ambulatory aid, and she said, we'd really rather have you on the path. No, I'm going to do that. So she put a convoy around. It was their first walk. They had a medical home, which is something we're shooting for. They had a physical therapist, a pharmacist, people, dietitian. Everyone answered questions. Everyone was nervous about this woman. Well, she tripped at the top. She told us she spent 7 weeks in the ICU and the worst pain of her life and all this. But the fact we had insurance covered it. It protected everything. It did get thrown out. But as you guys may know, it was a year of headaches and sometimes some sleepless nights. But that's now easy, and it's built in, and it's taken care of. Sometimes parks or malls want money. I'm a little rebellious, so we do go in the malls. Like in Columbus in the winter, it can be pretty cold, and we get a lot more people inside. I'm learning more about the health benefits of nature, so we're going to be kind of getting a little more outside, but we have 60 walks in Texas. I was talking to Brownsville. It's not too comfortable in July in Brownsville, so a lot of groups are going in malls there too. Funding is always an issue. Fortunately, walking is cheap, but at our growth rate, we're constantly looking for ways to improve that. Awareness, we've learned what the power of national media is, and even some international, which I'll get into. So that's something we're constantly striving for. And our team size, we're small. I'm full-time, doing about 25 hours on the side. Hopefully you can tell, it's a dopamine hit constantly. I'm addicted to it, the same as I was at the beginning. So I do it. Now we have that director I told you about in 2009. She had her third child in 2013, so she was with us for about 4.5 years, and now we've had this Rachel Habash, incredible woman, about 4.5 years, and she's a workhorse, and we have a great team. They're just small. One of the awesome things about this, and getting back to that magical point in 0405, people want to do the right thing. And this is just an example of what we're doing in Columbus. We're working with the city, we're working with the Y, all the hospital systems are doing it. As Marty alluded to, they don't always play nice, and one of them is doing theirs at the zoo, and that's fine. But it's it can be a Switzerland where different systems can come together. We have no exclusivity. And this collaboration started in 2012. A lot of the docs live in nice suburbs. They want to walk close to their house, which is great, beautiful parks. It's really important for us to hit the underserved areas. So we are really excited to team up with the city, and that's gone well. We have them in the 4 compass points right now. They walk from like April till November. Every 2 weeks is when they have theirs. But these collaborations have been fantastic. 3 Columbus logos you can't make out. It's the Department of Health, the Department of Safety, so it's walk with a doc and a cop, or a cop and a doc, depending how big the cop is and whether they should go first. And then the Parks Department. We had a great collaboration with Ohio. I'm on the Ohio Hospital Association board, so it gave us a little in, but they had their centennial, first state to have 100 years, and for any hospital that wanted to get started up, they gave them a Walk with a Doc program, the introductory. So it got us into a lot of those rural cities, rural communities that Marty was pointing out. And then really cool, we get to work with some incredible groups. The CDC, the Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity, has just been awesome to us and very helpful, along with these other groups. Trying to think, Texas Medical Association, I think, is the gold standard for the way the model works. Any doc in Texas that wants to do the walk does it for free, and they set them up with, we've got 3 levels of entry for physicians or hospitals, parks. They set them up with the top level, and we're growing like wildfire there. We ran into a good problem. I didn't know when we started our partnership with them in 2011 or 12, and you never know what's going to happen, but now we've reached a point where they give us an allocated amount of funding every year. The last 3 years, we're like, we need to add some more walks so we can get this funding by the end of December. This year, we used up the funding by beginning of June. So while Rachel, my COO, and really the brains of the organization, is freaking out about the fiscal component of that, I'm just cheerleading that the program's going and that people want to do it, and we'll just figure it out. Collaborating a lot with ACE. It's the certification board for personal trainers. So they have 70,000 personal trainers, and I'll get into a little of how that is going to work out, and it's very exciting. The Med Student Association is fantastic to us. We were just at their annual meeting in DC. There's about 12 to 15 med schools that are doing it, but a year ago there were about 3. And that number, as people are talking to their friends from undergrad, we're getting very frequent requests. And in my opinion, if we're not in every medical school in probably 3 years, or 95% of them, we will have failed there. Robert Wood Johnson, we're featured in their Culture of Health 3 years ago, 2015, and that led to a great relationship which gave us some data, which I will get to. Anthem is still with us, and they're still strong, and we are looking to improve our corporate relationships as well, to basically get these walks started. Here's some numbers that get us very excited about the potential out there. The NRPA has been really good to us. Of course, they want people in their parks, and people should be in their parks. I want to recommend a book called Nature Fix by Florence Williams. I was talking about it a little earlier today, but she's a writer for Outside Magazine, was living in Boulder. Her husband got a job in DC, so after 20 years in Boulder, she's in DC, goes into this culture shock of not being in Boulder anymore. So she wrote a book, did a lot of research on the health benefits of being in nature. She looked at forest bathing in Japan. She went to South Korea, Moab, Utah, and it's a really cool book. But that I was blown away by the health benefits of nature. That's why we're trying to get out of the malls as we can. Dr. Vivek Murthy in 2015, September, put out the call to action on the importance of walking and making walking a national priority. So that was really good for us. It led to a lot of requests, and this is what we're working on regularly. Our team is doing everything we can to make it turnkey for the hospital system or the public health department, either if it's a county, a city, a state, to get the program going and give them, say 24/7 consulting. It's not quite that much, but emails are returned pretty late at night. And we found that the numbers, when we surveyed our groups, 97.5% appreciate that concept of a doc stepping out of the office. Even, again, if it's for an hour a year, I'd say, I don't want this to come out wrong, but almost salivate over it. You should see the reaction of the community when you step out there just to give your time. It's an hour, not including drive time, but I mean, come on. So it's really neat. So these are, we're trying to make walking a national priority. These are a few things we're working on. Walk with the Future Docs. But I have to mention Dr. Joan Dorn is right up there. She's at Sophie Davis Biomedical Education. I think it's around 125th. She was former head of DINPAL, the nutrition physical activity at CDC, and she wanted to do more. She was working a lot on that call to action, but wanted feet on the ground. So she's got all these pre-med students, and they just, Thursday, they had the head of New York Health, I don't know his name, but he came out, he walked with them, and she's a wonderful leader. There's one at Mount Sinai, Dr. Fuster. There's a picture of him with a Walkman with a doctor, which is really exciting for me. He's been out there. Culinary medicine is coming on big all over, so that's something that we're helping with. AWOL is a walk-over lunch program that I have not been able to do anything with, but we are working to do some lunch and learns. And then this is our big one right now that we're excited about. We got a call from a woman, a dynamic woman named Carolyn Hartfield in Atlanta. She is a personal health coach, and she would make me, she'd probably enable me to run through a brick wall. She's so motivated. And she wanted to lead Walk with a Doc. Well, she's not a doctor. So we couldn't have her leave on the the other side of the coin. We could not let her go. She had to do something. So we started this Just Walk, powered by Walk with a Doc. School nurses, dietitians, other groups that want to lead the walk. We have a very strong disclaimer, but pharmacists, they're going to be, potentially much more important than me at answering questions. Dietitians, a lot of questions are about diet. So we're very excited about this. A lot of nurse practitioners, physician assistants, you can imagine. So that's growing. We do a very goofy newsletter. I know I'm coming up on the hour. We do a very goofy newsletter. It's what started with that first patient in 04. We started to those initial 800,000 people. Hey, we're gonna, we were having a little bit of a walking contest, and I realized I can't say every week. They needed a reminder, but I couldn't say every week, hey, we're meeting at High Banks, Big Meadows, picnic area, 8:30, there'll be coffee, water, bananas. That's going to get old. You're going to delete those emails. So I started drinking Mountain Dew late at night on Thursday, Diet Mountain Dew, and having these almost hallucinations and writing kind of very goofy newsletters that were an attempt at The Daily Show meets medicine. They're supposed to be a third inspiration, a third information, and a third absurdity or insanity. And we continue that format today. We found that those are more apt to go viral and go through entire corporations. We just had one go all through JPMC, so 14,000 people are hearing about Walk with a Doc just because some crazy cardiologist is writing goofy stuff. But in it, it's a spoonful of sugar. We'll slide an important study that was released or just something to put medicine into it. We found that Meetup, we're on Twitter and Facebook and all the others, but we found that Meetup has been very important. This is the first Walk with a Doc marriage. My goal was to get on Oprah because we wanted big attention or have a Walk with a Doc marriage. And Oprah I'm still waiting for, although we are working with Weight Watchers, so I guess in a way I'm getting there. But this is Karen and Jim. They're the first Walk with a Doc marriage. Dr. Kansra in Worcester, Massachusetts. They're with them in Tenet Health. So evaluations. We've done surveys through this newsletter of 18,000, and then the Texas Medical Association, that partnership keeps getting stronger. They've done their surveys because they want to justify their funding. And then with RWJ, we got this data that really was finalized in March. Limetree is an evaluation partner based in Austin, and they took 3 Austin sites, and we had 3 Columbus sites, and we found that according to the walkers, the numbers were very positive. That's 63% of increased physical activity. That's really good. That number kind of just sticks on my craw because we've seen higher numbers, but that's good. It improves their mood. They learn something new, so we found that works. The physicians are really important because, again, going back to 05, we didn't have the docs. We need the docs pouring in. That's the limiting factor. But they found that provides opportunity for social interactions, 84%. The walkers are more aware of their health. They have healthier lifestyles. The docs feel it helps educate their walkers about their health. Honestly, I don't know why all those numbers aren't 100% because it does all that, but I'm glad to see that the docs do appreciate that. We did a little bit of steps with this. We had Fitbit donated some pedometers, and we got an idea of what the average was per age. You guys know probably average American, not New York City, but average American, 3,000, 3,500 steps a day. Interestingly, average European, 15,000 steps a day. Average Amish, 15,000 steps a day. We're working on it. This is Tim. He's at our walk in Columbus. He lost 90 pounds. I bring him up because not because of the 90-pound weight loss, but he comes early every week. He does chalk, inspirational quotes. He secures the pavilion. Your community members will buy into this. Jump in with both feet. We're over time. We're talking the Today Show now, which is really exciting. I know it's nerve-wracking. When I walk by there, I'm like, do we really want to do this? We don't have anything finalized, but things are moving in a good direction with that. We want that because we know that's the way we're going to get 1,000 more requests, and we just want to open the floodgates. There's a horrible picture of 2 of the women that really make it happen. Rachel's our COO, heavily pixelated, not for any reason other than I pulled the wrong picture. Jessica's on the left. She's still working with us. She's now in Cornelius, North Carolina. And then just because I know I can come across as goofy court jester, there's some strength of the program. Dr. Tedros, the General Director of the World Health Organization, the WHO is launching a 12-year commitment, and Portugal is where they made the announcement because there's a lot of great stuff going on at Lisbon, and he walked with one of our leaders there, and now there's a movement to get this spread throughout Portugal, which is great. India has a lot, and we have an incredible leader there that's fueling things, but Portugal's on its heels, and again, we're at 390, but I honestly feel if we don't hit 5,000 by the time it's all, you know, by the time I'm done with it, I will not done my job just because the requests and the opportunities are crazy good. Thank you very much. Any